Daniel Jones was recently cut by the Giants after being benched. He didn't even make it to his first game on the bench. He was just cut. But if we're being honest, is Daniel Jones trash? I mean, coming up to the draft, he was never viewed as being the second best quarterback in that class of the 2019. And he was often set behind Dwayne Haskins, and even in some cases, a lot of people like Drew Lock over him. He wasn't really supposed to be the sixth overall pick. And if he was drafted in the second round, people probably wouldn't diss him so hard. And if he never signs the contract that he did. A lot of negative feelings we have towards Jones is because the Giants front office is quite frankly terrible. The front office should have never drafted him sixth overall, should have never handed him a $160 million contract, and he was given expectations that he honestly wasn't good enough to meet. But at the same time, when you're given those expectations and you want these expectations because he wanted to be paid big, it's not like the Giants threw the bag at his face, he's supposed to meet them. He had to ask for the massive extension. He wanted to be paid good money to be a good quarterback. And we've now found out he just isn't that good. Daniel Jones' failure isn't just because of him, though. But he was supposed to meet expectations that he wanted, but he couldn't meet. Obviously, the Giants team is not that great. Even in the offseason, I said I didn't like them. And I thought their defense was a little bit overhyped. Which I've been a little wrong about that. Dexter Lawrence has had a great year, which I didn't say he'd have a bad year or anything. But I'm not the biggest believer in Daniel Jones moving back onto him. I think his upside is almost that of Jameis Winston, minus he's just not as funny as him. But he did more for the Giants than we talk about. He gave them their first playoff berth in 6 years, and he actually won a game and upset the Vikings in that. And he gave the fans a lot of hope for a young quarterback. The Broncos have been awful. They haven't been awful, but we haven't had a good quarterback for so long. And now Bo Nix is finally giving us hope. Imagine if what happened with Daniel Jones, where he starts giving Giants fans hopes, now it happens with the Broncos. So even though he wasn't as good as he was supposed to be or wanted, he still did some good for New York by giving them a playoff win, showing like he might be their next quarterback after Eli. Obviously, he didn't do enough. There's a reason he got cut because he's just not good enough. A lot of it was just hope. But he was almost kind of like Drew Lock, who was also drafted in his class, like I said earlier. But he just did a little more than Lock, so he got the chance to stay with the Giants for longer. Plus the Broncos, it was always like, oh, they have all these weapons, so they just need a quarterback. While with the Giants, one of the excuses we've been making is that they don't have weapons and Daniel Jones doesn't have anyone to work with. But like with the Broncos, now we realize, well, the weapons aren't as good as we thought. But the Giants just can't really piece it together. And now they cut Jones. I actually think it's worse for them by cutting Daniel Jones because it shows they've given up on him after they signed him to that extension 2 years ago. But it's worse for them without Daniel Jones because they don't have a quarterback for next year. DeVito clearly isn't the answer, and I doubt Locke is either. And you know, in his first couple games last season, Daniel Jones wasn't looking all that good. They could have maybe drafted a late round quarterback, someone such as, I don't know, Jordan Travis, Spencer Rattler, but they could have done something to kind of prepare in case he wasn't the answer. Because it kind of feels like from the coaching staff, it really feels like they don't believe in him. It feels like they didn't believe in him, at least. But they still, you know, they decided to work with him. But they didn't go out and get any sort of replacement. I feel like maybe even a 2-year contract would have been better for him. Obviously, I doubt that's what Daniel Jones wanted, and I guess the Giants management decided to do the most New York Giants thing and pay him the big bucks. But the Giants really are left astray after this season. They don't have a quarterback. I mean, I don't even know if that offensive side, they have Malik Neighbors. Tyrone Tracy's looking up. But I feel like it's not a team where you're going to plug a quarterback in and they're instantly going to get better. Unless, you know, maybe you go for a veteran guy. I don't really know who's going to be out there. Jameis Winston, Sam Darnold. But I don't think you really want to go for either of those guys. Unless you feel like, you know, maybe Zach Wilson's the answer. He did show a bit. I would really like to see Zach Wilson kind of get a shot with another team because he looked very solid in the preseason. Obviously, preseason's the preseason. But like I was saying, is the roster good enough to go quarterback in the first round? I just don't know. And I don't know if there's even a quarterback really worth taking that high in this round. I feel like, in this draft at least, I feel like you need to go out there and just acquire some more talent on either side of the ball, because it just doesn't feel like a roster that is 100% going to compete this year, next year. Obviously not this year, but the roster just isn't quite there. Obviously, there's a lot of building pieces, and the Giants can go a couple ways. Maybe they want to blow it up and go for like a longer 3-4 year rebuild, or maybe they want to just kind of take this season, reset. Maybe next year they're not super competitive, but they still, try to put a team out there and they're not in a full tank. And then after that, maybe you go find your quarterback, just see what happens. I just don't know. I feel like Daniel Jones and the Giants are just both left astray now because it didn't work for either party in the case. I hope you guys enjoyed this. It was a little more free talking, less scripted. So I kind of like doing it better this way, except sometimes I can ramble a little bit. But I hope you guys have a good day and have a good one.